Here at the University of Reading, we're particularly interested in the effects of cannabis and its components, which are called cannabinoids, upon diseases such as epilepsy, and also its effects upon appetite and feeding.
Cannabis is one of the most widely used drugs in the world, and is certainly one of the ones with the kind of longest recorded history of use. If we look back to China in about the 3rd millennium BC, there's evidence from various texts that it was being used to treat pain and cramps.
Despite the fact that often simplistic messages are put forth in the media, newspapers and things like that, the underlying objective reasons behind whether it's useful or not are often an awful lot more complicated than first appearances suggest. The thing that needs to be understood with cannabis is the fact that there are around about 60 different chemical compounds within cannabis that are called cannabinoids, all of which may have a completely diverse range of effects. You've also got all of us as individuals who are very, very different individuals. We're genetically very diverse, our environments are very, very different, our upbringings are very, very different. We need to untangle that Gordian knot of complexity to try and understand which things may have a valid therapeutic use and which things are in fact red herrings, or which things do have significant risks associated with them, and we need to be very, very careful about how we use them.
My primary research focus here is looking at effects of cannabinoids on feeding behaviour. It wasn't until we actually identified and isolated the main psychoactive ingredient from cannabis, that's a compound called delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, that this field of research really took off. We've got a set of experiments where we've shown that if we administer THC or some of the other endocannabinoids, we can actually show changes in their feeding pattern. So cannabinoid administration seems to instigate feeding, orient those subjects towards food, making them actually go out there and want food. So the cannabinoids appear to be playing a role in kind of advancing the wanting phase of feeding, so it has a role in the appetitive aspects of feeding. Obviously, if we can promote feeding, then we know that means that the endogenous system is playing a role in kind of provoking feeding, and so if we can block that natural activity, this means that potentially we can actually block processes that kind of make you go out there and eat, and therefore there are potential uses for these compounds in kind of reducing obesity, reducing meal size in people that are actually obese. On the flip side of that coin, if we take various disease states, cancer chemotherapy patients who suffer from reduced appetite, again, if we can stimulate their appetite, there are very beneficial effects there for kind of good health and good practice.
One of our major research interests here at the University of Reading within my group are the involvement of cannabinoids, either our body's own cannabinoids or the ones that are present in cannabis, and their effects upon epilepsy. Now, epilepsy complicates matters a little bit more, in fact, because it's a very complicated disorder in itself. We give it a simple one-word name, epilepsy, but in actual fact there are a huge range of different types of epilepsies. There are a huge range of different manifestations. It's caused by a large range of things, and so you've got a complex disease. And certainly the anecdotal evidence about cannabis as a whole herb and people's use of it for the treatment of epilepsy is you're just bringing two very complicated things together and hoping that something might fall out the bottom that's meaningful. So it means for those research efforts we have to think very, very carefully about how we approach the research question we're asking and how we subdivide that down into achievable questions where we can look at a small number of compounds or compounds on their own in specific models of epilepsy that are designed to mimic particular types of the disease. And so some work that we're in the process of starting at the moment, which is a collaboration between researchers here at the University of Reading and the company GW Pharmaceuticals, is a 3-year program of research where we're going to be investigating a range of specific cannabinoids, some of which have never been tested at all, some of which we've been working on for several years and we feel have real potential. We've certainly got the industrial partners, the models to use, the compounds to use, and the preliminary results that make the future look very, very promising for this line of research.